Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about diminished triads. So we learned about this a little bit earlier. We decided that a diminished triad was just two stacked minor thirds. So for instance, D to F would be a minor third, F to A flat would be another minor third. That's a D diminished triad. The one you can see up on your screen, B to D and D to F, they're both minor thirds. So this would be a B diminished triad. And this is the only diminished triad that's naturally found in the key of C major. So because B is the root and B is the 7th scale degree, the Roman numeral for this would be 7, and then that little circle up there tells us that it's a diminished triad. So the thing that makes a diminished triad unique is that it has two tendency tones, unique for us at the moment. So that tritone really wants to resolve. The B, as we found in the 5 chord, really wants to go up to C. In this case, the F really wants to come down to E. So we look at it in this stuff without the D in the middle. You can see that it's a diminished fifth in this particular configuration. Now, a diminished fifth always wants to close in. So the B comes up to C, the F goes down to E, and that sounds like this. Now in this version, which is also a B diminished chord just with a third in the bass, so it's a first inversion B diminished, so we just call that 7 diminished 6, or 6/3 if you want to be complete. This is the inversion that you'll see 7 diminished chords in most often. You'll notice in this one the F to the B makes an augmented fourth instead of a diminished fifth, and so an augmented fourth wants to stretch out. The B goes up to the C, the F comes down to the E. So it can be helpful when you're dealing with diminished chords to figure out what the interval, the tritone interval is, whether it's an augmented fourth or a diminished fifth, and then either resolve it out or resolve it in as required. So because there are two tendency tones, it's important to think about doubling very, very carefully when you're dealing with diminished chords. The only safe note to double is the third of the chord, that D, because if you doubled the B, then you'd have two B's that want to go up to C's. In the same way, if you doubled the F, you'd have two F's that want to come down to E. So double the third of the chord in a diminished triad. So let's look at this in a full voice texture. So what I have here is a 1-5-1-6-5-1 progression. And what we're going to do is we're going to substitute the 7 diminished chord for the 5 chord. This is something that happens quite a lot because they share two notes, the B and the D, and later on we'll see some more similarities. So often the 7 diminished chord, because of its unstable nature and its desire to get to C and E, which are two main parts of the 1 chord, is substituted for the 5 chord. So let's change this second one into a 7 diminished 6 chord. So the first thing we'll do is we'll rewrite the bass so that we're in the right inversion. So in C major, 7 diminished is B, D, F. The 6 tells us that we're in first inversion, so D. Now we know that we need 2 Ds in this chord because we don't want to double either the B or the F. So we have a B that's working fine, it leads to the tonic, it's doing what it should, and then we need an F. Okay, so the F wants to come down to the E. This is one of the places where we're kind of forced into doubling the third of the chord because of the way the bass and the tendency tones interacted, and that's okay. If voice leading suggests that we need to double something, then we should follow the voice leading. So now we have the D, the B, and the F. The two tendency tones are going where they need to. We've made sure we're doubling the third of the chord. So let's listen to that and see what a difference it makes. It adds a little bit of color, right? It doesn't sound quite as fixed as 1-5-1. And so that's a good reason why you might want to use a 7 diminished chord, especially in the middle of a passage rather than in a cadential area. So 7 diminished chords, remember to always resolve the tendency tones, the leading tone and the 4th scale degree. They want to, leading tone wants to go up, the 4th scale degree wants to come down, and always double the 3rd of the chord.